Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So as of late, there have been a ton of breaking news coming out pretty much every day, but 99.9% of them revolve around one of three topics: non-domiciled CDLs, English language proficiency, or immigration. The news has been so loud about these three topics that I completely forgot about another piece of news that will affect carriers in a pretty big way. So a couple of years ago, I would say at this point, it's actually 2 years ago, I made a video about a big win for carriers revolving around broker financial responsibility. And now this news is front and center again. So let's chat about it. Ready? Let's go. All right, as I said a little bit ago, actually, it's been 2 years. In November of 2023, the FMCSA amended regulations revolving around broker financial responsibility, right? Brokers and freight forwarders. One of the biggest changes were the consequences for not maintaining an adequate financial surety bond. So, you know how brokers have that $75,000 in a bond in case they do not pay, the carrier can then go ahead and file against that bond. Well, in 2023, the FMCSA stated, and I'm going to quote this: pursuant to this final rule, when the broker or freight forwarder's available financial security falls below $75,000, FMCSA may suspend its operating authority registration. A broker's or freight forwarder's available financial security may fall below $75,000 because a broker or freight forwarder consents to a drawdown, or if a broker or freight forwarder does not respond to a valid notice of a claim from a surety or trust provider, or if a claim against the broker or freight forwarder is converted to a judgment. If the available financial security falls below $75,000 and the broker or freight forwarder does not replenish funds within 7 calendar days after notice from FMCSA, the agency will issue a notification of suspension of operating authority to the broker or freight forwarder. So why is this a big deal? Well, according to FreightWaves, apparently brokers used to be able to maintain that bond with the help of non-liquid assets like personal loans, crypto, real estate holdings, or unsecured financial instruments as backing. But that is all about to come to an end. According to the FMCSA, beginning January 16th of 2026, so literally less than 2 months from now, brokers, freight forwarders, and financial responsibility providers will need to comply with new rules regarding broker freight forwarder financial responsibility. These changes are intended to protect motor carriers and shippers by ensuring adequate funds are available to satisfy unpaid freight charges. So the first big change on the list, and I'm going to move right here so you can see it as well, the only acceptable assets for BMC 85, which is similar to the bond that brokers are supposed to maintain, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. The only acceptable assets for this are cash, irrevocable letters of credit issued by federally insured depository institutions, or U.S. Treasury bonds. So let me clarify. There are two ways a broker can choose to maintain that $75,000 bond, either through BMC 84 or BMC 85. BMC 84 bonds are basically underwritten by surety companies that end up taking the financial risk. It's very similar to the underwriting that happens with insurance for a carrier. And basically, the broker splits up that $75,000 into monthly payments. BMC 85, however, is a little bit different. It's like a trust fund, and it requires the full $75,000 to be deposited with a trust company in the form of collateral. FreightWaves said that BMC 85 bonds are like the Wild West because there are no financial checks, no credit checks, and no underwriting. And this is what they say. For years, some of these providers operated with little to no liquidity, often outside the reach of U.S. regulators. That's one way how brokers could default on payments, shut down, and leave carriers holding the bag. And that is now over. The next thing that is changing, of course, is the fact that if a broker's bond, the surety bond of $75,000 falls below $75,000 and they do not replenish that amount within 7 calendar days, the FMCSA has the authority to revoke the broker's operating authority. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to give you a very obvious example, I suppose, because I think a lot of people have worked with this broker before. So we're going to use R&R Express as an example. As you know, if you have worked with them, R&R was a pretty decent broker, but something happened over the past few months where something happened to their financial situation. They are rated an F with RTS factoring. Their credit score is in the toilet, yet they continue posting and selling loads to carriers. R&R is still an active broker and is able to sell those loads to carriers, as I have said. Now, I don't know what their situation with their bond is like because I haven't worked with R&R Express for over a year now. But under the new rule, if their bond falls below $75,000 because carriers are not getting paid and they're filing against that bond in order to get their money, R&R Express would have its authority revoked and would no longer be able to sell loads to carriers. Now, what does this rule mean for you and me, the carriers, the truckers? Well, it's twofold. On one hand, this new rule, again, it's set to begin or be effective as of January 16th of 2026. It will eliminate the bad actors. And I'm talking about the brokers who know that they have financial issues. Their bond is falling below the $75,000. As you guys know, if the broker is very crappy, the bond gets depleted to zero. And then if you're too late filing on that bond, yeah, you end up without money for the load you hauled. So the good news about this rule is, of course, it's going to limit the amount of brokers who have financial issues and will not allow those brokers to continue selling loads to carriers who perhaps don't do significant vetting when working with a broker and just trust that this broker is going to pay. So those brokers are going to leave the market. Their authority is going to get revoked, and it's going to limit theoretically the amount of carriers who end up holding the bag after hauling a load and not getting paid. The flip side is that there is some risk. According to FreightWaves, some carriers may find out after a broker authority is suspended, after they hauled the load, after the invoice is sitting unpaid. FMCSA is not going to text you when a broker's bond drops below $75,000. So it will basically be up to you to start vetting these brokers like crazy. It's not going to be a situation where, oh, the FMCSA is regulating the financial surety bonds right now, so I don't have to vet. No, on the contrary, you will start vetting more. Now, if you're using a factoring company, it's a little bit easier because factoring companies do their own vetting and you are just able to check what is going on with their credit score, their days to pay. So that's a little bit easier. Now, if you're not using a factoring company, FreightWaves actually recommends several steps. Number one, check Safer and FMCSA licensing and insurance portal. Number two, confirm that their BMC 84 or BMC 85, these are two ways that brokers can get that bond, are current and active. And if you can, call the bond agency to ensure that they have that $75,000 present. Number three is, of course, be wary of insurance cancellations. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to update you on this because, again, this is going to, on one hand, provide a little bit more financial security, but on the other hand, it can drive a lot of brokers out unexpectedly. And we really don't want to be in a situation where, like FreightWaves said, you hauled a load and then you find out that the broker's authority is suspended. So my recommendation is, of course, to double check everything, vet those brokers like crazy. If you have the DAT or truck stop higher tier load board, you're able to take a look at how their credit score is changing over time, as well as days to pay. And remember, if days to pay is starting to go up over time, you're probably looking at a broker who has issues with cash flow, and I would just be very careful. And again, if you have a factoring company, you're a little bit safer because the factoring company is doing that homework for you. Anyway, wishing you all a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.